We will yell for our masks. We hope that can you guys hear us in the back row? If you're not answering, okay, good, thank you. So we're all good. So we want to say good morning to both everybody here in person. What an awesome turnout. And we also have an awesome turnout on our Zoom this morning. So we want to say hi to everyone. 10 people on Zoom this morning. So and Lisa Webb is waving to everybody. Can't see her. There she is. Thanks, Lise. We are so happy to be back with the DCA after 18 months, which is just incredible. Marilyn, Amy, and Steve, who have been so and helpful, and we really couldn't have done this over the past year and a half without them. So thank you guys. We do have a gentle reminder as per, oh, it's hard to do this in a mask. And yeah, as per our contract with the DCA, they ask that we do not eat or drink inside the building to encourage continuous mask wear. So we just have to give you guys a quick note. Today, we'd like to welcome second-year provisional Christy Parkley. We can't see my reading glasses. Christy, are you here? Oh, Christy, yeah, wave, say hi. It's been challenging for our members to put a face to a name with our provisionals, so we're going to continue to introduce them both on Zoom and our meetings. A lot of them will be wearing face masks, but hopefully you'll get to know them over this next year. We would also like to say, Kelly Stewart, can you please stand up? Oh, here she is. Okay, this is Kelly Stewart. Kelly and Nate McGovern put together the outstanding arrangement on the tea table today. Just because people are getting. Okay, Kelly, could you do a Zoom wave? Oh, no. Okay.
You coming?
That's fine. And we asked Mary Rooney to join us up here so the Zoom folks can see you to introduce our guests today.
So we're delighted to have more guests with us
Come
today.
on over here.
Oh, sorry.
I
prefer not to be on
Perfect.
Zoom, but anyway. So we're delighted to have more guests. And so we have Lori Oram, who's a guest of Leslie McCarthy, Liza Smith, who's a guest of Juliet Kane, Ingrid Treisler, who's a guest of Lisa Hughes and Lisa von Dupenagel, and Lisa Webb too, all the Lisas. And then we have Eileen Scholes, who's a guest of Lisa Hughes. So welcome, and if I think you can stand up. or-
Yeah, would you all just stand up too? Again. Thank you so much. Thanks, Mary. We have a couple of quick housekeeping notes before we get to committee reports. Over the past year, we have been meeting with our Zone 2 presidents via Zoom to exchange ideas within our 19 clubs. It's been very productive. And as a result, our friends at the Stonington Garden Club are the ones who nicely provided the verbiage for the publicity release that you all have been signing on your way in. This will go out to newspapers. It'll cover us for newspapers. Amy Fraser is going to be working on our Instagram account. We have all sorts of fun things planned. If you prefer not to sign it, just reach out to us directly and we will put you on a list so that you're all covered for it. Any publicity going forward.
And the GCA one will be a separate form that we'll fill out individually if there's something that we're going to put on the GCA website. We weren't able to cover both in the same form.
Yeah,
We'll
luckily
reach out to
we
you.
don't have that many. They require that for the bulletin, but not for our Zone 2 language.
Right.
So we're covered for that. And Betsy has a couple minutes.
Okay. I'm excited to share that the Zone 2 annual meeting and flower show, you may have seen this on the GCA website, that's where all the information is, but it will be June 14th and 15th in Hartford, hosted by the Garden Club of Hartford. And their whole schedule is there. I printed it out last night. And there's a lot of stuff and it's incredible, incredible. But I wanted to let you know that they are asking each of the Zone 2 clubs to enter the gavel challenge and the photography division. And additional information will be coming as far as the gavel challenge goes. The challenge will be an egg, well, they're gonna give us all an acorns. So this is gonna be interesting.
The name of the show is Charter Oak,
Charter Oaks.
so they're going with the acorn.
My ink is kind of on the downside, but anyway. So the gavel challenge information will be distributed soon to all of us. And Juliet's aware of this, but again, we don't have the information and the details of when the acorns were arriving. So we'll keep you posted on that. And for more information, go to gcamerica.org for all that great information. And another thing on the website is, as you know, as we announced at the September meeting, Lewis Miller, Flower Flash will be coming here in our joint meeting with New Canaan here at the DCA. We're really excited, and hopefully we'll have a March day with the sun shining, and we can do the same thing here and open up a lot of the DCA. But the GCA has put together one of their on-demand programs, and it is based on Lewis Miller. So how timely that, just who's fun, you know, that all this is working out well. But this on-demand program covers his Flower Flash creations in both New York City and London. So you're able to see that. The video is about 35 minutes long, and you just go to videos and it will take it there. So, or you could even put in the search bar on demand and it will boom, there it is. 35 minutes again, and we ask that you watch it before he arrives in March. So you've got a winter to do it. And he's also has a surprise class where he creates a holiday centerpiece for everybody to watch.
And it's out of all grocery store flowers.
Yeah.
So that's fun to say.
That's right. All right, so now we're going to begin our committee reports, and as you saw, we're going to ask that you come over here so the everyone in Zoom land can see you and hear what's going on. All right, our first committee report. Let's have Juliet come up for report.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Gosh, I can't remember being here for so long. We've had a really busy time with, between Hort and Conservation. And we started off with a cleanup of the Lee Beach Gatehouse garden that was badly damaged in the various storms we had. And we did some replantings there. We had a seed gathering at the town hall, native seed gathering, and we had a native plant swap after that. So now we have seeds for our winter seed sowing workshop. And for those of you who haven't yet seen it, there's a new sign installed at the slopes at Town Hall where we did our seed gathering by the Beautification Commission. And we'll tell you all about the plantings that are there. And the commission will be planting towards the end of this week the area that was kind of undone by the staircase removal. We've had a leaf propagation workshop that was run by Debbie McLean, and hopefully we'll be growing things that we can show in a competition in February. And then the Pollinator Pathway joined forces with the town a week or so ago and planted over 30 native trees and shrubs around the town hall area. And we devised we've devised a way to get people to water the plants by having them adopt a tree or two or the shrubs. And so we have a watering schedule. So I think that's actually quite a good idea, but if we're doing more civic plantings that we actually, individually take charge or get the community to take charge. And then this Friday, we are doing what we're calling a forest walk. We're going to try and gather dried materials, branches, seed heads, that sort of thing, to make organic arrangements, or mostly organic arrangements that if we like them, we can display at the November meeting. And also have an enormous big branch that needs to be decorated for the nature center. It has to be durable as well. So if anybody's or a group are interested in taking that on. So that will be Horton Conservation. We'll meet at 10 o'clock at the Selleck's Wood entrance that's behind the residence at Selleck's Wood. And then I have one more announcement. We have a wonderful bulb forcing workshop that's going to be led by Lois We've had to change the date though, because we have a delivery supply issues. So it's now going to be November 5th and it will be at 2:30 p.m. That's it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great, thank you, Juliet. Next up, provisionals, Leslie Sanderson.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. As you can see, the provisionals are very busy with all their committees. And even aside from that, last Friday, we had a fantastic photography tutorial with Amy Chilnoki. We met at Amy's house at 7 a.m. and had a wander around Ruaton with a view to discussing photographs of inspiring skies. And as you can see, the big turnout today for that. So thank you, Amy, that was fantastic. Today, we're launching our provisional project. It's all about herbs. We're going to be growing the herbs for the Memorial Herb Garden. Normally, we replace herbs each year in that garden, and this year we're hoping to take cuttings and propagate some of the herbs, and then in January, we're going to grow some seeds as well. We're hoping, if all goes well, we'll have lots of herbs and we'll be able to distribute some to you, so watch this space. So that's going to start this afternoon. I would just like to say thank you to all the provisionals for jumping right in and being so enthusiastic. They're a great, great bunch of ladies, so thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Next up, we have the herb garden.
March the board.
Sounds so better.
Hi, everybody. So I'd like to thank everyone who participated over the summer in keeping the herb garden going and looking beautiful. So as Leslie said, we're looking forward to collecting some seeds and stuff with the provisionals at 3 o'clock this afternoon. And then tomorrow at 11:30, we're having kind of a mid-fall cleanup. There's one more to come, but so just a reminder for any of the herb garden committee members and anybody else who would like to join us, 11:30 tomorrow. And we're also trying to make it look beautiful for the Darien Heritage Day celebration. So, which is, I think it starts at the museum. So,
It does.
anyway, all right, thanks so much.
Bring your little weeding tool.
Thanks, Daddy.
All right, thanks, Patty. Okay, up next, Ginger Conservation.
Hi, conservation has been busy and active. We did the cleanup of their port, and we have done, we're about to do the walk, so join us. But on a national level, I wanted to let everyone know to look out for the 2021 study conference. It's all going to be about salmon and the Northwest and why that matters to us, how the environment, how the economic health of the region. And it's going to be November 17th. So a sign up will come through your email soon, but I recommend looking at it, and it will actually have what the individual day meetings are. Also on the national level, there's position papers. Position papers are what are the issues that the Garden Club of America really cares about. Things like clean air, clean water, climate, native plants. And each month, they're going to take those and make a mini conference. It takes about 25 minutes to an hour to watch, and they're really interesting. Our Julia Kane spoke at the transportation one. So look in the newsletter, I'll have links. So far, we've had transportation, national parks. The one this month was national parks and forest. It actually had a great write-up on Olmsted 200, who Olmsted was and what the parks are. So please look for that, because it will let us know why we care about these issues, what other clubs are doing, and what other resources are that we could look for. And so when you're sitting there on a rainy day, click in and look on the national website, but in the newsletter, I'll write more. Thank you.
Thank you, Ginger.
Yes, Lisa Hughes, would you please join us? Lisa is co-chair of our fundraising committee with Sandy Noble, and she's here to tell us about our next Jake McLaughlin event coming up.
Take microphone, ladies.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Can you hear me?
So on Thursday, November 18th will be our first fundraising event at J. McLaughlin from 10 to 7 p.m. There'll be scones and I don't know if tea and coffee are going to be drinks, but and then later in the day it'll be appetizers and wine. And if people can't attend, you can pre-shop the week before. And last year, I think we made $3,000.
$3,000.
So show up, you can go to 10:20 after. It's gonna be fun.
Party up.
Thank you, Lisa. And thank you, Holly Friend. I don't know if Holly's here. Yeah, Holly instrumental in getting the Salt on Park Club. So thank you.
So I just think that it's a great idea.
That's great. Thank you again for all your help. Next up, photography with their competition results. That's a big one. Margaret Erics. And Leslie McCarthy.
Hi, everybody.
Do you want the microphone?
Yeah,
You wanna be the,
I'm not a-
Okay.
I got a big enough now.
Okay.
Do we want to give her reports first or? Leslie's going to speak first.
Hi all, tomorrow, Wednesday morning, we are having a coastal Connecticut bird and wildlife walk at the Cove Beach parking lot right behind the ice rink. And we are really honored because Dave Winston, who is a very talented wildlife photographer and stewards that property, is going to lead us on a guided walk between 9 and 10. Bring your cameras, binoculars. It will be very tranquil and peaceful. And this is an important time in terms of the migratory pathway for our bird life. And in particular, the Cove Island Wildlife Sanctuary is unique in the sense that it used to just be a tangled dump. And now it actually is a very rich ecosystem and offers sightings of up to 200 different species of birds. So join us in the parking lot for a quick coffee and scones at 8:45, and we'll walk from 9 to 10. Just let me know if you'd like to come.
Thanks, Les. Hi, everybody. What an incredible display of beautiful photographs. Thank you, everybody, so much for taking the time to enter provisionals, especially unbelievable job. Our judge really made a great comment and said that everybody's done a fantastic job with your horizons, which is a big deal. So that's awesome. And the other thing that I just wanted to mention about this is that we goofed in our ordering of the black mats. We love the black mats. We think that they totally set off the photographs beautifully, but what we ordered did not have a back mat, or they're not double matted, so that the photographs are, it's sort of flimsy. So you can either take like a shirt cardboard from your husband's folded shirts and cut it down and add that to beef it up a little bit, or just another mat. Really feel badly about it, but I just have to be honest. So anyway, my apologies on that. And then Margaret has the results.
Yes, the judge, she was great. She divided them all into 4 different categories. So we are going to start with Orange Skies. For let's see, 3rd place, Debbie Colan. Allison Kohlmeyer, 2nd place, Amy Chilnoki, and Emily DeAndrea, 1st place, 2 first place. Sky with Water and Boats. Honorable mention, Susan Ballard, 3rd place. Got my glasses, sorry. Irene Miltmore, 2nd place, Denise Cara, 1st place, Debbie Murray. Water Without Boats. Honorable mention, there's a lot of water boats, a lot of water. Mary Rooney, 3rd place, Leslie McCarthy, 3rd place, Margaret Erics, 2nd place, Ginger Morgan, 1st place, Beth Crump. And Sky Without Water, Sky Only Without Water, 3rd place, Betsy Bigler, 2nd place, Claire Hare, 1st place, Provisional Julie Murphy.
Well done, ladies.
Well done. Thank you. Thanks for
Oh, and
participation.
also, if you guys were going to be selling note cards with these photographs on the note cards at our November meeting. So anybody who would like to submit their photographs to be used in the note cards, please send your image between 1 and 5 megabytes to gcdphoto2021@gmail.com. And the deadline is Friday, so we can get those done. So, thanks so much.
Thank you.
So did we
Thanks,
send
guys.
these? Did we send these?
Sure.
These images?
Yeah.
These are images.
Yes,
We're gonna use the ones that work.
I think it's the ones, yeah, I think it just makes it. a lot easier.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a nice
Thank you.
theme.
Yes. Thanks, photography ladies. Next up, Angela, with the results from floral design. All set.
I'm all set.
Awesome.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to do a quick run through two on the schedule, which is on our website. Our next competition is November 9th, it's tabletops. And everybody loves tabletops, so we'd love to see lots of people enter, and if possible, to give us a heads up that you are entering, because we'll have to have enough space because it takes more room with the placemats, dishes, the glasses, and an arrangement. After that, on November 18th, we have a botanical arts presentation via Zoom. Again, details are on the website, but Betsy Bigler and the Garden Club and McCain are doing a meeting. Anybody who's curious about botanical arts. And the last, actually, November 23rd is a Thanksgiving centerpiece workshop with Emily DeAndrea. We're still figuring out the actual details on how we're going to do it, whether it's going to be in person or whether you're going to pick up a bucket, but again, details on the website. Now the competition. I'm going to start with the judges' comments, because they were sent to me specifically, not just told.
Do you
Yes.
want to use the microphone?
No, I'll talk louder. Judges are blown away by the talent and
Sophistication.
thank you, of these designs. Delightful, stunned, impressed, enthusiastically blown away. So well done. They were split into two categories, the big ones and the little ones. I will start with the little ones. In first place is Gretchen Woodcheap and Lisa von Stuppenagel. Second place is Sue Hayes. Third place is Carolyn Langelier. An honorable mention to Iris Nix. First place goes to Emily DeAndrea. Second place, Vicki Nolan. Third place, myself. Honorable mention to Ginger Morgan, and honorable mention to Betsy Bigler. Thank you. See flowers and people, and join us for the November one, because that's easily much easier than these things, but the arrangements are small. Thanks.
Thank you, Angela. Congratulations to all our floral design and photography competitors. Now, I'd like to ask Diane Schlinker to come up to introduce our speaker. And the microphone's working.
I'm going to use the microphone. I'll warm it up. You guys hear me? Okay, good. Well, Elizabeth is going to tell us a lot about her background, but I thought I would at least introduce her by telling you that she started her career as a dedicated and accomplished tropical botanist, and then became a botanical artist and botanical photographer. So she'll talk to us a lot about her photography. She calls herself a recovering botanist. So she's married, has 4 boys, lives in Chestnut Hill near Boston, and she actually drove in last night to meet me and Betsy and Tracy at Senna for dinner. So we had the pleasure of talking to her a lot then. She had to fight the traffic leaving the marathon from Boston and then entering Connecticut after a long weekend. So it took a while, and thank you for being here. Elizabeth is a Princeton graduate with a degree in ecology and evolutionary biology. She went on to receive a master's degree in botany from the University of Georgia. And her company, her current company, is called Bottle Branch. She formed it over 5 years ago. It's a botanical photography and paper goods business mainly. And she named it, if you're curious, Bottle Branch, after a stream that ran behind her childhood home. She doesn't sell bottles. It's Bottle Branch. And we're lucky to have a selection of her products here. which she would normally sell to retail stores. And she did share with me that her price is at the suggested retail. There are plenty of places that sell it for more than that. And you can obviously order as well. She'll take cash, check, even credit cards today. And lastly, you will want to follow her on Instagram at Bottle Branch. So Elizabeth, come forward, give us your not used to using a microphone. So thank you for that wonderful introduction. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for having me here. It was such a great night last night. It's already been such an amazing trip. So thank you. And thank you for being interested in hearing my story. So I guess I'll start. I call this talk From Botanist to Botanical Photographer. And I guess this is sort of like what my goal for the talk is. It's sort of, I want to tell you my story of trying a lot of new things and experimenting and a lot of learning. And what I hope you get out of it is inspiration. I hope it leaves you inspired in whatever your creative pursuits are. Maybe it's photography or gardening or floral design or any of those kinds of creative pursuits. Here's like a quick roadmap. I'm going to talk first about my work as a botanist, just because that's sort of the roots in where my love for plants comes from. And then I'm going to talk about how my business was formed about almost 6 years ago. And then I'll go into some details about how I make the images that I use for Bottle Branch. And then I'm going to just share some fun things that I like to do with photography. I'll call them emerging interests. So my first job out of college was a biodiversity study in the Bolivian Amazon. This is sort of what the area looked like then. I don't know what it looks like now. And I put this in to show you, there were no bridges. You can see there's like, I don't know, make a pointer on here? No. But you can see at the bottom, there's no bridges. There's a little rough ferry with a tow rope and an outboard engine that brings big trucks back and forth. Sorry about the quality of the photography. This is, of course, a print because this is pre-digital camera. And this is a logging camp. We came in and out of logging camps. And I put this in here because the giant tree in the middle is a kapok tree, which some of you probably have seen if you've ever been to Central or South America. It's one of the most majestic trees in the American tropics, and it's one that people often leave out when they clear forests. And I think there's a children's book written about it called The Great Kapok Tree. So basically what I did was I was assigned to work on the plant surveys of all the trees, and maybe that was what made me love plants, because there were other people working on surveying mammals. There was a herpetologist doing reptiles. There were entomologists. So I went out every day into the woods with, that's me on the left and my coworker Nico on the right, who was also 22 at the time, and he was a local Chaman Indian. So his second language was also Spanish. So it was kind of an interesting time. I think we probably made up some words. So we went and measured and identified all the trees. We had the help of a Bolivian graduate student with the identifications. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. But so measuring trees in any kind of research project, you measure what's called diameter at breast height, which is what they're doing in the picture in the lower right. That's probably the biggest tree that we measured in the whole time, which is why I took a picture of measuring it. And then in addition to measuring them, we had to collect samples, and that's what the picture on the left is. If you see what looks like a white line down the middle of the picture, that's actually an aluminum pole. So the way you collect samples is you have a telescope aluminum pole that goes up like 10 meters, and it has a clipper on the end and a rope that you pull to clip.
it's really hard. The pole wavers a lot. And then also to get really high up, you climb trees, you can't really see it, but there are special attachments to your shoes that allow you to basically walk up a tree. Sometimes you see foresters using them. So this is what a plant sample looks like, and I chose this one just to show you. So we collected samples of the leaves, and then they eventually were pressed and put into herbarium sheets, and that's an herbarium sheet. That's an example. Right there, I put this one in because this is a really cool tree that was in that forest. It's called Hero crepitans, and it's in the Euphorbiaceae family. And if any of you grow euphorbias, you might know that they are very poisonous. And so this tree is so poisonous, the local indigenous people would take the sap, put it in a bucket and throw it in the river. All the fish would float to the surface, and that's how they would harvest fish. I know. I don't know if they still do it. So after I was done with the field research, I was lucky and I got to take our samples to the herbarium at the Missouri Botanical Garden. This is what an herbarium looks like. Some of you may have been to one or seen one. An herbarium is basically like a repository for plant samples. It's kind of like a library for plants. And places like the Missouri Botanical Garden employ plant taxonomists, who are the people who decide what's named what. But for a research study like what I worked on, the samples get matched against their samples and left there as sort of like a voucher for what our identifications were, if anyone wants to ever go back and look at them. So back to my personal story. So then after that, I decided I love botany. I really want to go become a real botanist. So I went to find a master's program in botany. I did research in Puerto Rico, which if any of you have ever traveled there and been to El Yunque, which is the national park, contiguous with that is National Forest Service land, which is where there's a lot of research done. And that was where I worked, and that's the field station there. I worked in plant population genetics, not like that. And then I got this really great job where I worked for 12 years working on carbon dynamics. And I was working in Massachusetts, but also in Bolivian Amazon. So I put some cool pictures of that to show you. So this is where we were based, the town of Santarém, which is on the Amazon River. It's at a meeting of rivers. That's what it looks like. That's actually a newer picture from when I was there in the late 90s. This is what the field sites look like driving in, and our research was based in the Floresta Nacional of Tapajos, which you can see on the Google Maps image. You can see how land is getting cleared adjacent to it, and it's becoming a little bit of like an island. That research was looking at the carbon balance in forests. So actually it was joint funded with NASA and the Brazilian Space Agency. They put a giant radio tower up in the middle of the forest, a 50-meter tower, and they, a bunch of atmospheric scientists attached instruments, and they measured gas exchange like every 6 seconds. It's kind of crazy. But my job was, I was hired to go out and do what I had already done before, which is go out and measure and identify all the trees. So there I am, there's still measuring trees. And then after we had measured them, we installed on the lower right, that's called a dendrometer, and that's a very simple mechanical way of measuring tree growth. As some of you probably already know, trees grow, their trunks grow radially, and that can be scaled to how much carbon they take up. And that was the sort of the purpose of what I was doing in that study. Put this in just for fun. Some of you may have seen what this plant is. This is kind of one of the fun plants that was in that part of the Amazon. This is a rubber tree. So natural rubber comes from Brazil, and primary production of natural rubber in the early 20th century was all in Brazil because they protected their plants. Eventually, someone snuck some seeds out, and it's all moved to South Asia. But in that forest, what used to be a place where they can only grow rubber trees very low density in South America. So we would every once in a while run into a tree that looked like that on the upper left. Those are scars where people cut a line. And I found a picture of rubber, natural rubber production on the right. That's how they do it. They cut a line and the sap, which is white, drains down. But so some of the trees that are in that forest were tapped for rubber when Henry Ford was like trying to corner the market on rubber, and they're still there. So I put this in here. So I was also working in Massachusetts, and I just put this in here. So that's where, this is where I learned my New Zealand plans. Those are not my photos. Those are newer from the website. So I was also doing similar research in North America too. So I worked there for, I think, 11 or 12 years. And then when my youngest child was born in December of 2008, that was when I was like, I just can't do this anymore. So I resigned from my job, and then I had a lot of time in my garden. So this was sort of my first garden that I sort of designed and put in. And that's in my front yard, because in my backyard is mostly wooded. So I started I was mostly growing vegetables and flowers. I'm going to do a little talk about the trajectory of my garden too, because people always ask. So I don't have that many pictures of it, weirdly. So here's what I have. You can see in the middle picture that you can see the raised beds, but I sort of let it get wilder and wilder because I kind of really enjoy seeing what happens. And that was one year I let the giant plant in the middle is Verbascum thapsus, which is the weed. But I saw it and I was like, I'm going to see how big it can get. And you can see it got really big. So the picture on the right is from last fall. So I finally was like, let's just get rid of the raised beds. I'm not even really, I'm letting things grow in the gravel, and let's make like a real cottage kind of garden. So I have a friend who's a landscape architect who helped me design sort of a system of paths so it wouldn't be chaos. We tore up the whole front garden. So this is what it looks like in the spring. It's a little bit daunting. I'm not gonna lie. And I try and grow a lot from seed. You can see in the far end is planted with mostly firs, and that's going to be a sort of a woodland native plant garden. But the rest is my cutting garden. And so this is what it looked like in probably July. And this is what it looked like last week. So people always ask what my garden is like. And I put these in. I also have a spring garden in the back of my house. And so these are a couple of images from my spring garden. And I also there kind of like to let things move around and sort of see where they're going to be within a contained area. So those are a bunch of Aquilegia that definitely move around. Another kind of Verbascum, which also seeds itself. So that's in forget-me-nots, or the blue, the pink columbine. And then foxgloves come in June. So that's sort of my spring garden. So now back to my kind of personal story trajectory. So I was home with my kids and gardening a lot. And I was also kind of on the side reaching around. I kind of had this idea that I wanted to have a sort of flexible creative based business. My mother was an art teacher. So I grew up doing all kinds of art. So I was doing a lot of printmaking. I was doing on the upper left is those are from White Line woodcuts and silk screens on the lower right, getting my right so much, lower right. And I was sort of thinking, well, I think I could make a business of this, but I'm really gonna have to do way better at photography if I'm gonna be able to do this, because you need to make really great images of your art to sell it. So I took the summer of 2015 off from doing anything else and just started taking a lot of pictures. So, and when I was doing that, I was like, well, I'm obviously just gonna take pictures of the plants in the garden. So I started taking pictures and I started posting them every day on Instagram. And this has been part of this talk for a long time, and I feel a little funny talking about Instagram. Got so much bad press now. But back then, it was a really great sort of daily discipline for me to kind of try and produce something that I felt like sharing every single day. And it helped me really get better. I quickly started making, you can see in there these little arrangements of flowers on a flat surface. Those are mostly my kitchen counter. So they're started making things like that and posting those. So it was a quick jump to make those on a whiteboard and then put those on cards and other paper goods. And so that's how I started my business, Flower Rich. I basically was like, wow, I like this even better than printmaking. And this is what I'm gonna do. And then this is just, so then it's just been kind of an evolution of adding different products over time and sort of figuring them out. Washi tape for my newest. So this is what I mean when I say this is a story about growth and learning. So I definitely, like in 2015, when I was like, I want to get better at photography, I was using my iPhone. I was like, well, I don't know, I studied photography in high school. So I knew how to use a real camera, a film camera, but I didn't do a lot of it. So 2015, I was using mostly an iPhone, and I was using it to learn about composition and about light, because it doesn't matter what kind of camera you're using if you don't get your composition, if you don't have a good composition, it doesn't matter how, what your film quality or image quality is. And I sort of waited until I figured out what I couldn't do with an iPhone to get my next camera. And so back then, with an iPhone, you could not control the depth of field, which is what's in focus and what's out. So I quickly jumped to the second camera, which is probably still my favorite. It's a mirrorless compact, which is like a DSLR, but it doesn't have as complex of an apparatus of mirrors on the inside, which I can explain that later if you want. But so that allowed me to manually control the exposure more and control depth of field. And so I still use that camera for a fair number of things. But finally, about 2 years ago, I decided I needed to get a real DSLR because I was doing more of these still life kind of photos. And I've done a few really large images for installations in people's houses. And I was bumping up against not being able to, the resolution file size from the 2016 camera, the mirrorless compact, is not as good. You can only go up to like 18 by 18 inches. So, and I do really like my DSLR. It's just very heavy. So I put this in. So I'm going to show you quickly. I told you I used Instagram as kind of like a place to experiment and try stuff. And I'll show you what it looks like. This is going to show you, I'm going to show you what it looks like. So this is 2015. This is when I was just like I wasn't trying, I was just taking pictures, right? And I was also still doing other kinds of art and stuff like that. And then that's a year later. You can see I'm working on composition and getting the right light. And then a year after that, you can see I have more images that have a shallow depth of field where I'm using more of the manual controls. And then I'm trying to think what's in this. So then this is just 2018, maybe getting more complex, using getting images where the flowers are backlit, where you can still see them, where flowers in the window. And then that's 2020, which I put in because that's, of course, my dark period, which we all had a dark period then, right? I was definitely taking a lot of dark images. So that's the sort of the story of my journey as a photographer and the founding of my business. And so now is when I switch gears and talk a little bit about some of the photography processes I use. And I'm gonna say it starts with design, right? Because this is, I'm making an image, using floral elements. I put this in because I'm also a member of the Chestnut Hill Garden Club, which is a Zone 1 GCA club. And I always try and enter into our club, floral design clubs, because I feel like it helps exercise the design part of my brain. I almost always post them on Instagram too, which is why. So I feel that that's a place where the GCA has really helped me because it helps challenge me. And I like to say a shout out to judges, because the thing that I think is interesting when they give you comments back, I'm almost always like, oh, right, you're totally right. I just didn't see it. You know, like so it's great to be able to get that feedback. So in terms of my images on white, it's the same idea, but this is what it looks like. It's literally a whiteboard, and with laying plants and flowers out on it, and a lot of trial and error. Some of the things I think about are some of the same things that you probably think about in floral design or in landscape design or any of the other things. I think about texture and shape. I think about color. I just added the little color wheels in because I realized I always had this image in that I could never remember. This is a split complementary because it has the purple and pink, which are next to each other, and the yellow, which is opposite. But if you're, I'm not super trained in color theory, but it does fall into that category. And then I also kind of think about rhythm, which is another thing with plants in floral design or in garden design, any kind that you're probably thinking about, even if you don't realize it. So this is then how I do take so once I have a good design, then I have to take a good image so that I can make it into something. So this is what the basic setup looks like. I like to work outside. I like to use natural light. And I have a tripod that allows my camera to point down. And then it's just put whiteboards around it to reflect the light back. And I'm going to show you why and how. So this is what it looks like when you have something on a whiteboard and you're not controlling the light. See how the far left is white and the far right is gray. And the shadows are stretched really far towards the far right. So putting those whiteboards helps basically create a little light box so the light is landing more uniformly on the paper. So that's just basically, oh, I put this in to show you. I also, if I'm photographing outside, I use that little thing that I'm holding is called a diffuser. You can buy them on Amazon, and that basically softens the contrast and makes it like a cloudy day. If you've ever noticed, if you're taking pictures, cloudy days are some kind of the best. The diffuser kind of gives you insta clouds. And you can see an image on the right, sort of how it looks. If you look down to the flowers, they kind of look softer than the high contrast full daylight. And this is actually where I take most of my images. I have a sort of a studio on my sun porch at home. And you can see a cloudy, you can see there's light outside in that image. It's sort of a cloudy, bright day, damp day, kind of nicer to be inside because there's no wind. But it's the same setup. So once the image is taken, that's what a raw image looks like coming out. And then it basically becomes a matter of increasing brightness and lightness. I do, if you're a manual camera user, I do, when I'm taking the image, increase the exposure, overexpose it. But the trick is to not overexpose it to the point where you lose the lighter pieces of it. And then I do use Photoshop a lot, and a lot of these things I'm going to tell you about next are Photoshop based. But this is sort of like the next step in increasing the brightness and lightness is using Photoshop to, that's increasing the lightness and brightness, but you lose some of the other lighter elements of the image. So in Photoshop, you can isolate elements and change their exposure. So you can see that I sort of take individual flowers and change the exposure on just them to make it read better. And there it is on the card. The other thing I just added in is when I make my cards and my notepads, I always try and add what the plants are on the back because, like, you know, I am a botanist and I still think of them when I see them. I think about them in terms of their names. It's like part of who I am, and I do like to increase botanical literacy. And I feel like I'm the kind of person, if I got a card with real plants and flowers on it, I'd be like, I can't remember what the name of that is. And then, so I feel like that's there for those people who are like that. It's reminding you what the name is. So that's it for the basic kind of card and paper good techniques. And then this is just, I'm going to show you a few of the other things I do, and these have started to pop up in some of the items I make, and some of them are just kind of for fun. One is working with a black background, which some of like the fabric goods and zipper bags are using that. And that's basically the same technique I used for white, but for a black background, you have to get these special, you can't just use a black board, you have to, photography places sell like a black velvet that doesn't have any reflection. It totally 100% absorbs all light. But just lay that out and then good to go. The black background also I have found is kind of fun for allowing color changes in Photoshop. And this is kind of fun to see. You can change the color and then fix it and change the color again. So I've been having a lot of fun playing with that. And then you can see some of the things that they end up on are like that, but it's just fun to do. The other area that I have learned, and this is like, I think I learned this from online tutorials, is making repeating patterns. And you can see the repeat. I put this one here, the repeat is really obvious, right? The purple to blue. And I'm going to show you how that works. So they turn out to be like basically a tile that you're creating a tile that fits together. And this is how it works. Starting with an image, again, plants on a flat surface. Shift it over and then fill in the spaces with elements. Fill in the spaces. Fill in the spaces with elements of the photo. Just copy and paste. And then shift it over again until you've filled all of the spaces. And then what you're left with is a tile that you can, if you send it, there's different ways, but you can make it into a repeating pattern. And you can see in that image, if you look on like the right edge, you can see the leaves that are cut off from the wildlife on the left edge. So you can see how it fits together. And that's actually how all repeating patterns are made, I've learned, even people who are working with like drawings or, you know, other, not just photography. So then those end up on my rounding paper. I also have dabbled in putting them on Spoonflower, which is a really fun place where you can, I mean, anyone can upload their repeating patterns, and it's so much fun to just look at them all. But, and they also allow you to do these cool, I did not take those two images. You can generate what your pattern would look like on different items. Oh, and this is fun. I just added this in because this is something that I still like to do occasionally. So this is an example of like, I'm just really interested in plants, right? And I love, I'm sure some of you have noticed how certain ones close at night or when they're cold and then they open up. So trying to capture that. Let me see how I make this work. Oh yeah, there we go. So those anemones I did not grow. Those are from a local flower farm. So just trying to capture that opening. It's really fun. And that's just a camera setting on a couple of my cameras. There's a time lapse setting. Although you have to control do real details like white balance. There are a couple other steps. This is the first one I ever, actually the second one I ever did because it was in the fall and the even straw flowers get so tight at night. And then as soon as you bring them in, they open up like that. And it's so fun to see. So occasionally I like to try and make one of those. And then the final other interest is I have been sort of working just traditional still life photography, which those of you who are in photo have probably done. I sort of started with this idea of like, this is just today for my garden. Like these are, I'm just gonna go out, see what's there and see what I can make with it. So these are sort of through time. This one I did in the winter when I had nothing in my garden, but I think I found that grass. I don't even know what it is because it was the winter. But I found that grass and it just seemed, it kind of inspired me to go dig up what I had dried. And this is probably a June. And it's kind of fun to make rainbow. And this one I just recently did because I planted those are hardy mums. I planted those for the first time. I thought I didn't like mums, but then I planted those and I really loved them. So that's pretty much it. Those are all my ways you can find me. Thank you for listening. Some time for questions.
We have time for questions, right? Anybody have any questions about the photography or back there, Iris?
We put them on the board.
No, just sitting there. That's why it's actually, I say I like to work with natural light, which I do, but windy days preclude that.
What's the make of your camera?
So the mirrorless compact is a Panasonic Lumix. And I like it because it also allows a Wi-Fi connection with my phone. So I can use my phone as a remote, but I can see the image. So I really like that camera. And then the bigger one is a Nikon 820D. And I chose that one basically for having a big sensor size because I knew I wasn't going to be traveling with it. I'll probably always travel with mirrorless compact.
Another one?
Hi, I have two questions. One, you mentioned the website where you make your tile and.
Yes, that is Spoonflower.
Oh, that's good.
And your class is for learning, getting better at photography and Photoshop. You're doing that all online.
So
For our Zoom friends,
Yes.
We need the question repeated.
Oh, sorry.
I wouldn't have known either, but.
Yes, no, I can put it up.
Yeah,
I should know
okay.
that. Okay, so the question was, where do I get items printed on the repeating pattern tiles printed? That is Spoonflower. And then what was the next question?
And then most of your classes in Photoshop and photography, those formal classes online.
So some was just literally Googling to find out how to do things. The creating the pattern tile, actually Spoonflower, where they offer a really good tutorial on how to do that. And then I used to have a shout out, but I don't use this kind of photography anymore. I've taken 2 classes in person at the Maine Media Workshop, which is up in Mid-Coast, Maine, blanking on the town. And I took one with someone named Harold Davis, who he teaches, it's called Photographing Flowers for Transparency. And he offers online workshops. He is an amazing teacher. He's based in Berkeley. And so he doesn't, but he teaches all over the world and he's written like 20 books. And he is really, so Photographing Flowers for Transparency, he has this technique and you should Google it because his images are amazing. But it's also kind of a Photoshop heavy technique. So I definitely learned a lot from him.
What's his last name?
Harold Davis, D-A-V-I-S. I think his website is Digital Field Guide. I used to have one of my images I made in this class in the presentation. I should put it back in. And then another person I took a class with who was a really, really great teacher is Leanne, Leeanne White, White. And she also does online. She used to be the photography editor at Fine Gardening magazine. And now she's primarily a fine art photographer, and she teaches classes, and she was a really great teacher also.
Any other questions? We are so lucky to have a
thank you.
GCA member. Yeah, she did bring plenty. I mean, a lot of us already shopped. I'm sorry, her inventory's depleted as a result, but you'll get the idea, and you can go online. Yes.
Hi, everybody. Hope you enjoyed. Hi, guys. Hi.